Michael Morell is a former deputy director and acting director of the CIA. He advised the Hillary Clinton campaign, and we are pleased to welcome him back as the CBS News contributor. Good to see you, Michael.
Good to be here.
So where to begin with this? Let's start with, do you think this is an effective way to prevent terrorism? Donald Trump keeps saying it's all about making America safe, keeping America safe.
I think the order is going to make the threat worse.
How so?
It is going to make us less safe. First of all, the biggest problem we face is homegrown terrorism. Of the roughly 100 people who have been indicted by the FBI for ISIS-related crimes over the last 3 years, 85% were American citizens. This doesn't get at that at all. None of the attacks that we've seen since 9/11, including 9/11, would be affected by this order. So it doesn't make the threat any less, while at the same time it's playing right into the ISIS narrative. ISIS has not said anything about this yet, but people around ISIS who amplify its message are talking about it, and they are saying, see, we told you this is a war against Islam. So this is going to be a recruitment boon for ISIS.
And what about... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, are there things that could be done that would make us more secure in terms of looking at similar lists on a watch list and things like that are not specific about religion?
So the Trump administration keeps on pointing to these 7 countries and say these countries were on Obama's list, right? This was actually part of a program to enhance the security of the visa waiver program from European countries, from people traveling from European countries. So they enhanced it. Right? They already enhanced it, and there's no evidence that there's any weaknesses to it. So that's really important context here.
Right, those were already labeled. I looked at the DHS website today. It's like they were already countries of concern. They already faced additional scrutiny.
Exactly.
On this, how will this increase, perhaps you say, make us less safe? Do you think from an external threat or from an internal threat?
So I think from both, right? It's going to be a recruitment boon for ISIS, both overseas. It'll attract people to them, and here at home, it's going to enhance their propaganda that they throw at Americans. So in both places.
We talk about Steve Bannon going to the Principals Committee. You know what the Principals Committee is, and the fact that unless they have issues relevant to them, the Joint Chiefs, Chairman of Joint Chiefs, or the Director of National Intelligence will not be there.
Unprecedented, both putting a political advisor on and unprecedented taking off the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the DNI. I have never been to a principals meeting where the views of the DNI and the views of the chairman are not relevant. Every principals meeting starts with a briefing, intelligence briefing by the DNI. And having somebody like Bannon in the room brings politics into a room where there should be no politics.
Yeah. George W. Bush was specific at the White House saying Karl Rove will not be included in these meetings for the very reason that he didn't want it ever to be a political decision. It should be.
Yeah, it was Josh Bolton saying absolutely, too.
At the directive of the President of the United States.
Right. It also creates another power center, right? Mike Flynn should be the person in charge in that room talking to the president. This is now going to create competition for Mike, right, for the president's ear. That's not a good thing that there's 2 voices talking to the president about national security.
Clear me up on one thing about this. If they wanted to be there, the Director of National Intelligence and the Chairman of Joint Chiefs, could they be there? Does this prevent them from being, even though it's not necessarily a subject of their primary interest?
I would hope so, but I think the signal it sends to them is that somehow you are less relevant, less important than the other people in the room.
But Sean Spicer said yesterday on TV, if they want to be there, they can, but they have not been invited into the meeting. But let me ask you this. The White House says that this is a bona fide success. You look at the headlines, as Charlie pointed out, chaos in the streets. What needs to happen now? It's very troubling. Depending on your point of view, it's either very troubling or Trump is doing exactly what he said he was going to do on the campaign.
So he is doing exactly what he said he's going to do, and it's troubling, right?
You're saying both things are true.
Both things are true. I think what has to happen here is they have to start making policy like adults, right? They have to say to their interagency, here's what we want to do, get all of the feedback, get everybody in the room together, have a discussion about the upsides and downsides, and make a decision. That didn't happen in this case. So it was a small group of people making the decision.
It was reported that the head of the Department of Homeland Security, General Kelly, who keeps us safe, that he was informed while this executive order was being signed. What troubles you about that?
That's not how you make effective decisions, right? You have to get the input of your professionals. You have to get the input of the departments that have to implement this stuff and have the knowledge to make the right decision.
The interesting thing about this, too, a lot of people are worried about this because people from Iraq who helped them and saved their lives are not having to go through this kind of process. Right. And it's terrible thing to do to somebody that helped save your life. So
two other damaging aspects to this, right? One is it is angering those countries that need to help us the most in the fight against terrorists. Iraq is a great example of that. And then two, creates a disincentive for people to work closely with the U.S. military in these countries.
Right.
Thanks,
because
Mike.
we've asked the Iraqi army now to be, and forces to be the front line in the fight against ISIS so that it's not our men and women who are on the front lines.
Right.
Michael Morell, thank you so much.
Great to be with you.